I want to stress that these are just initial thoughts on episode 2. This is not a very analytic piece. This is just a more gut reaction. Take it for what you will. I did like the episode. I thought it was pretty strong in certain places, but I'll say it, it's still very uneven. I still think the Lynch version is much stronger. And episode 1 was boring because it was just doing a lot of setup. So I do agree. A lot of people were saying the pacing would pick up. It definitely did. It's a lot more brisk. It definitely felt like the plot events were being moved along more cohesively, but there were still so many weak elements. Like the lead performer is still really just anti charisma. I can see why they got him. He's muscular and handsome, but really, he's just very uninteresting. I guess they're trying to give a preview to Dune Messiah and Children of Dune because Paul's more distant in those versions in that story, but he seems way too distant in this one. I just never felt like the sheer transformation of him joining the Fremen, but maybe that's just me. I did buy the romance though. I thought him and Shawnee were just fine. I know some people keep telling me it's pronounced Cheney or Chani or whatever. Cheney, I can't agree to because it brings up weird associations. I'm going to still call her Shawnee, but I thought him and Chan or whatever we're going to call her, that worked. I try to be careful with these things. The actress was not that beautiful, but I believed it. I believed they could fall in love. And they try to do these weird psychedelic orgy scenes. Those were interesting. It's cable television. They can only do so much, but I appreciated them trying to put an erotic edge to it. But it was, honestly, it just felt more silly than anything else. And again, I appreciate what they tried to do with Orulon, making her like this more agentic woman, but honestly, the scenes with her are just laughable, and they're doing quite a lot now. She's apparently this super sexy spy, and I just thought it was I thought it was so laughable. But she's giving it her all, so I do appreciate the actress really trying. So the strong parts are still the Baron and Jessica. They really steal the show. I really felt emotively invested in their scenes, and they come off as very credible. And I will say this, although I still think the Sardaukar look weird, yes, it's more true to the books, but with the first episode, they just look silly. They just look really stupid. Now, the Sardaukar now look more ferocious because the armor, it still looks weird, but it definitely looked stronger. So at least the costuming with them was much stronger. But then their battles with the Fremen are just very clunky and very anticlimactic. I mean, basically, they just are idiots. They just fall into these traps, and the Fremen beat them just way too easily. I get it. They have a TV budget. They really can't do extensive choreography with fighting, but it just felt kind of weak in terms of the first half of the episode. It still felt they dragged on a little bit, but the pacing was a lot stronger than episode 1. I will say, though, I was a little disappointed with Faid. The first part, he's very uninteresting, but he does pick up in the second half. I think the second half has a lot of good payoffs with Faid. He does this weird thing. I don't want to spoil it, where he's like recounting how evil he is while having sex, and he just keeps bragging about his evil and how evil he is, and it just was hilarious. But it's a good hilarity. I was like laughing with the episode. I wasn't laughing at it. There's not really that many good things to say. I mean, it does fill out the plot of the book more than the Lynch version. Although apparently the Denis version is giving us a lot of the plot. So the one really strong thing here is that you get more of the book plot. That's definitely true, but they're still structuring it in very weird ways. And the special effects are not being used correctly because, you have to handwave a lot of things. You just do. But wow, when they try to look like they're in the desert, it just looks too fake. So it's really hard to get into the whole world because it just looks so fake. The paintings, the settings, and they don't replicate the attacks, I think, as much as they should. Because if I remember correctly, the Fremen do a kind of kamikaze attack. We don't really see that, as far as I can remember. So yeah, it just felt very uneven. But I'll be fair, I would recommend seeing it. It was exciting enough. I did believe the romance. The Baron scenes are very funny and interesting, and I'll give them credit. They went all the way because he's in this weird red Speedo. I mean, it's just ridiculous, but at least they went all the way with him, and I found him very amusing. And I found Jessica very interesting in how she's torn between the Bene Gesserit and Paul. It's not great. I would give this, if we're being super mathematical, like a 7.35. It's not too strong, but it's fine. I would say, actually, if you didn't read the books, this is more for you. Because if you did read the books, you're still going to be like, Well, at least they got a lot of details right, but beyond getting some details more faithfully, the Lynch version at least has much more style and personality, but this moves along just fine. I'm really hoping the payoff with the final episode is much stronger, but it's less boring than the first episode, but I just don't think they took advantage of this middle chapter to really do as much of a good story. I realize they're hampered by the budget, but yeah, it just felt way still too uneven, and they just made a tragic mistake with the casting, and the lead performer is just not a good enough vessel for Paul's transformation, but hopefully the final episode they bring it all together. All right, this has been an initial reaction to episode 2 of the Syfy miniseries, Frank Herbert's Dune. Thank you for listening.